Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about Super 8. And this movie came out in 2011 and is directed by J.J. Abrams, a filmmaker who I'm not particularly a fan of. I used to like him a bit more when I was younger, when I first saw his movies in theaters like Star Trek and Star Trek Into Darkness, but rewatching those, I kind of enjoyed them less and less as time went on. His 2009 Star Trek film was fine after rewatching it. Star Trek Into Darkness is not very good. Mission Impossible 3 I don't really like, and I haven't seen his Star Wars movies in a long time, but I don't really remember much about them other than, yeah, Rise of Skywalker wasn't that great, and Force Awakens I barely remember. I remember kind of liking it, but who knows how it's aged after all these years. And there was Super 8, the one that I have never seen before. And I had some hope for it. The trailer looked kind of interesting from memory, or at least the teaser, if I'm remembering it right. And I always vividly remembered watching the teaser for this movie. It was like, ooh, that's kind of interesting. Let's see where we go from here. And here's what I think of J.J. Abrams is that he's really great at marketing films. I feel as though that's his greatest strength, even if it's dishonest, for Cloverfield Paradox, or just about any movie that he has involvement in that's notable. Like the first Cloverfield had really interesting marketing, same with 10 Cloverfield Lane and to some extent Cloverfield Paradox, but point is, that's where his strong suit is, and you either like that or you hate it. Either way, that's what he's best at. And this movie definitely highlighted every single problem that I have with J.J. Abrams. And it was just, wow, this is a huge mess. And I have no idea why this movie is almost 2 hours. It could have easily been 90 minutes, first off. And the movie is pretty fast paced, but like all of his movies, that's kind of by design, so you don't question how stupid everything is. Like, the editing, it feels like characters are constantly interrupting each other, and you can't really pay too much attention to any of it. And it doesn't feel like characters are just interrupting each other like a natural conversation. It feels more or less the editing doing that work for you, and it just came across as distracting. But before I get into more issues that I have with this movie, I'll get into some positives because I do have some things about it that I took away that made me feel, yeah, that was a good thing about the movie. I liked the train crash. That was kind of fun. It's definitely the highlight of the movie and what was the big marketing behind this movie. And also, I thought the performances were pretty good, especially Elle Fanning. I thought she was great, and there are parts of this movie where it did kind of feel like an acting reel for her, just to show off what she can pull off, and I found that to be kind of fun, and she's easily my favorite part of the movie. But as far as positives go, that's about it. One thing that kind of surprised me about this movie was how terribly shot it was at times when it came to the action. Like, it was just poorly filmed at times, poorly presented visually even. Like, that's one thing that was really dragging this movie down for me, is just how poorly it was presented visually, because J.J. Abrams can sometimes do things at least competently or above average from what you're used to seeing in like a typical blockbuster or just any other movie that you would see that's for mainstream audiences. But in this one, it's like he was either learning some different techniques or was trying to do something a bit different, and it completely failed. I did not feel as though anything that was presented visually was a good thing in this movie, especially like in big moments. So like when it's just characters talking, it's fine, but whenever it's during action, it's like, what are you even doing here? The characters in this movie, not all of them, but most of them, were either just flat or annoying, because the movie doesn't really develop these characters all too well. There's a lot of characters in this movie, but by the end of the film, all I was able to think was, I don't really know anything about you. Really. other than like just a couple of things that were told towards the beginning, and that's all they have. The movie doesn't really develop them beyond that. And if they have no character from the beginning, they have no character for the rest of the movie. I wasn't a fan of the humor in this movie. It just never really worked for me, and I just found it to be kind of distracting. And this is also kind of a nostalgia bait movie, and it makes sense because this movie came out in 2011, and that was a time where we got a lot of movies that were paying homage to 80s movies, and I guess this one's set in 1979, or at least the late 70s. I think that's what they said, but still, it did feel like a nostalgia bait movie in the sense that like trying to pay homage to 80s movies and just make you want to rewatch some of those movies. And in terms of like the soundtrack and I guess to some extent the tone, but I just found it distracting and it never once really worked for me. Some of the soundtrack choices were kind of entertaining, but that's about it. It didn't really feel purposeful, and there were some jump scares in this movie that I found to be very ineffective. I just couldn't really get behind it, and the characters in this movie, when it's during action, for some reason decided not to use their brains and made really stupid decisions. Like, for instance, when the train was crashing, instead of running away from the train, they just run alongside the train. Why would you do that? There's also tons of conveniences in this movie that I found to be rather annoying, and a lot of forced drama as well as the movie went along. I just wasn't able to get into any of it. Just about everything that this movie was doing or setting up pretty much has no payoff, which was kind of disappointing. And this film also kept reminding me of other films that I've seen that are just better. Like, I would rather be watching Jurassic Park. That's a big movie that I was thinking about. Or I would rather be watching Cloverfield, another big movie that feels very reminiscent to this film, but just much better. Or I would rather watch E.T. That's another movie that was kind of referenced a little bit in this movie. Or at least I was thinking of while watching this movie, and had a little bit of John Carpenter's The Thing in there as well. All movies that I would much rather be watching, and just found to be distracting that they were kind of in this movie and just dragging it down for me because I just felt as though I was watching something that was so derivative of all those other things. And also, going back to J.J. Abrams, I just want to talk about him for just another moment. The impression that I get from him is that he really wants to be Steven Spielberg. Because throughout his filmography, you can see little sprinklings of inspiration that feel reminiscent of a Spielberg movie. However, the difference is that when it comes to the overall product of a Spielberg movie, when you look at the poster or the marketing or hear the title, anything like that, you can have somewhat of a pretty good idea of what you're going to get into, and you're either going to like it or you're not. And when you're done with it, it's like, yeah, I got what I expected, and I'm not really complaining all too much. But with J.J. Abrams movies, you see the marketing, you get an idea of what you're getting into, but once you watch the movie, for some reason, and this is always my experience at the very least, it's always much worse than what I was expecting. It's like, wow, we just can't get past getting an interesting idea to the screen, can we? Like to get butts in seats, not in execution of having it play out in a movie. Great. And as far as my emotional experience with this movie goes, I was either just frustrated or kind of bored. Mostly being upset with the movie because I just wish I was watching something better, and you can see little ideas in this movie that could make it really good, but it's just not here. It's not being fully utilized, and it was just disappointing with that. And also, with the title Super 8, when the movie was immediately over, I was like, why is it called that? They don't really say much of anything about that. But then I kind of came to the conclusion maybe it's referring to the camera that the kids were filming on. Maybe it's like a 8mm camera or whatever. Is that what it's referencing to? Either way, by the end of the movie, it doesn't really have much to do with anything, really. It's kind of just its own thing and is never really brought up very often. And I took a note before even watching this movie because I'm familiar with J.J. Abrams movies, and going into it, I was expecting it to be very fast paced and to gloss over a lot of plot holes or things that would be interesting, and that's what I got. So, in a way, I was met with my expectations, but for some reason, I'm also infuriated with what I got by the end of it. And one fun fact about this movie that I saw growing up, because on Cartoon Network, they had a series called Mad, and I used to watch that, and this movie was referenced in that, and instead of Super 8, it was Super 80s. And just making all these 1980s references, and I haven't seen that skit in a long time, but that's always something that just lived rent free in my brain. It's like, oh, I should probably watch this movie at some point, and I did. But this movie, I feel as though one reason why I'm disappointed by it is that it doesn't really give you what you would want from this concept. Like, there's some alien stuff that's going on, and it's in a train and it breaks out, and there's these kids who discover that and are kind of intrigued as to, like, what's going on here, and things are going missing, and, there are ideas that are right there, but unfortunately, it doesn't fully deliver. Like, if you want to see creatures just break out of a cage, then and just destroy everything, watch Jurassic Park. If you want to see a monster movie destroy a city, watch Godzilla or Cloverfield. If you want to see an alien try to return home, watch E.T. Like, everything that it's trying to do, it's just a lesser version of all these different things. And since I mentioned Cloverfield, I might as well mention this because I don't think I'll have the opportunity to mention it again. I think at some point we were supposed to get a fourth Cloverfield movie, like sometime after the Cloverfield paradox happened, but that has yet to happen. So who knows when that's going to happen, if ever. But who knows, maybe it's best to just let it die, and maybe someday it'll get picked up again, and someone who actually knows what they're doing will make a better franchise out of it, or just anything better, or just leave it. And that's about all I have to say about Super 8. It was bad. It was not for me. It was infuriating at times. There were some moments that I did like, and parts of it that were kind of somewhat enjoyable. They weren't throughout the film. They were just little bits, and mostly with Elle Fanning. She's the best part for me, and that's pretty much all I took away from this movie. So I would not recommend this movie. I don't think it's worth your time. I just walked away feeling incredibly frustrated. So with all that being said, I'm going to give Super 8 a 3 out of 10. Thank you for watching my videos. As always, if you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below you thought of Super 8 and my social media links. It will all be in the description, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation, and I'll see you when I get my next review up, and that is going to be for, and I'm probably going to mispronounce this, Barton Fink. So look forward to that, but until I get that up, thank you for watching and have a great day.